Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Social Science with Shilpa. So in today's class, we have taken the chapter 2 of history of grade 7, that is Rise of New Kingdoms. In today's class, we'll discuss about the emergence of new kingdoms, means the reasons why the new dynasties emerged and how they proved themselves and how they gained their acceptance from the world. So let's begin. So first of all, let's see the objective for this chapter. So the first objective is we will learn about the new kingdoms that emerged during the medieval period in North and South India. Second, we are going to study about the tripartite struggle, the struggle between the three dynasties, that is the Rajputa dynasty, the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty, and the Pala dynasty. And that struggle was for the region named Kannauj. All these three dynasties were in constant fight amongst each other for Kannauj. So we'll even study about the reasons why Kannauj was so strategically important to be occupied by these three kingdoms. Next, we'll study about the Muslim invaders who came from Northwest, who invaded Indian temples, who invaded Indian rulers and their kingdoms. So that also we are going to study. And the last that we are going to study in detail is about the powerful kingdom of South India, that is the Cholas. So let's begin with the key terms so that the chapter become easier. So the first key term, the dynasty. So as in class 6, we have learned about the Gupta dynasty, the Mauryan dynasty. So in a dynasty is a family, means a family which is controlling an area generation after generation. So that is a dynasty. Empire, the area under control of a particular king or an emperor, it is known as his or her empire or a domain, kingdom or a territory. Then next is tripartite, means involving three parties. Tri stand for three and partite means parties, involving three parties. Next is Samantas. The Samantas were the subordinate chieftains, means they were not equivalent to the king, but they were subordinate to king. But yes, they were strong warriors. They owned soldiers and they provided these soldiers to the king whenever required. One example of such Samanta is Danti Durga, who was Samanta of the Chalukyan kingdom. Next key term is the patron, a person who gives monetary support, means financial support to the artists or writers and singers in order to encourage them or to motivate them to pursue or to perform the work that they are doing. Like in this class 7 also we'll study about various rulers who have patronized art, craft, literature, architecture, language, and have contributed immensely in their development, which has made our culture even more rich and diverse. Next is the reign, the time in power. A particular time during which a particular king or a ruler was ruling is known as his or her reign. Next is Sultan. It's an Arabic term. Please don't pronounce it as Sultan. It's Sultan, Arabic term which means ruler. What we call in Hindi as Raja or Maharaja. So in Arabic, the person is known as Sultan. The last term is a peasant, a farmer who owns or rent a piece of land. So a small farmer who owns a small piece of land or takes that land, particular land on a rent is known as a peasant. Okay, now let's start the chapter. The first thing that we have to study that why were the battles fought and from since which time the battles are taking place. So since time immemorial, since ages, we have seen that there have been fight for power, for land, and for fame among different group of society, different group of people. So in even early times, the early period when we had early humans on the earth, they also had fight amongst each other. They fought, there was fight between the tribes over the land, over the cattle, over the resources, over the people so that they can make them slaves. So they wanted to capture the land occupied by another tribe or the cattle which they owned to make them their cattle as theirs. Now, the battle did not stop, it continued. Like we have talked about we have even seen in Mahabharata that it's a fight, it's a battle between the two brothers only, means the Kauravas and the Pandavas, who were fighting for kingdom and the kinship. So they were fighting for Hastinapur and Indraprastha, and the great war of Mahabharata, the great battle took place. So here we can see a picture from Mahabharata, that battle, and we can see Arjuna and Lord Krishna. In grade 6, we read about Janpadas and Mahajanpadas. So Janpada, where the people have set their foot, and Mahajanpada is a large Janpad. So the Janpadas fought amongst each other. They had a constant fight amongst each other, and the Janpada which emerged powerful became a Mahajanpad. Now, how they maintained their power or they expand their territory? They did fortification. They built huge walls around their forts to secure themselves, to secure their people, or to protect themselves from the attack of any enemy. And they even maintained large army so that they are ready for any attack anytime. And some of the most powerful Mahajanpadas of that time were Magad, Anga, and Avanti. And there were many. I have just mentioned 3 here. We have talked about 16 Mahajanpadas in grade 6 who were very powerful during the ancient history. Now, but battle did not stop here. Battle continued. So new kingdoms arose in ancient period also. We have talked about the Mauryans, the Guptas, the Kushanas, and Satavahanas. All these kingdoms, they fought amongst each other. The battle continued for power, for territory, and to prove their supremacy over another. And even after that, the early medieval period also witnessed the declining and the growth of many new dynasties. So during early medieval period, the Rajputs, the Gujra Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas, the Palas, and the Cholas, these also emerged. We will study about these dynasties in detail in this chapter. And along with this, in the later medieval period, we will even talk about the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals, the great Mughals, the powerful Mughals. Next, now the question arises, what did these dynasties do to gain acceptance? See, because all the kingdoms had a desire to build an empire, and therefore they were continuously in fight amongst each other to gain control over the territory of another, a neighboring territory, and the strategic region, the regions which were strategically important, like I talked to you about Kannauj. So for which that region, the 3 kingdoms were in constant fight. So likewise, let us study the reasons how the new dynasties emerged, that we have learned that through battles, and how they gained acceptance from the outside world. So 5 reasons I have mentioned here. First is by showcasing their power and wealth. Second is by the Samantas who declared themselves as independent or as Mahamandaleshwaras. Then next, performing certain rituals like Hiranyagarbha, by adopting titles like Maharaja Dhiraj or Tribhuvan Chakravartin. And the last, which we have talked earlier also, the warfare. But there were some warriors who were not actually of Kshatriya Varna, but they had all the skills of a Kshatriya, so they left their profession which is given to them by birth. They left their profession and adopted or took up the arms and proved themselves to be victorious and developed and started their own dynasties. So let us pick up all these 5 points one by one. First is showcasing power and wealth. So the kings used to build huge forts and temples to exhibit their strength, to exhibit their power, and to exhibit their prosperity. So you can see very well from these 3 pictures, the huge forts, being built. We can see the fortification, we can see the location of the fort, at height they have been constructed so that it may make difficult for enemy to reach there or to cause any harm to them. We can even see the temples with lot of richness, lot of precious and semi-precious stones and then metal work and carving that has been done, which is worth seeing. So all this could only be possible if a king would be prosperous, if king could be wealthy. So by building such huge monuments, they proved their supremacy, they proved their prosperity to the world. Second, the Samantas. Now Samantas, as I explained to you earlier, they were subordinate of the kings and they were the military leaders who provided soldier to the kings whenever required, or the war equipments were provided by them, and even they they the, they had to serve the king whenever required. So the Samantas were strong military chiefs who were subordinate to the king. Their duty was to provide weapons, equipments of war, and soldiers to the king. See, because it was difficult for a king to maintain a large army all the time because they had to pay salaries to them. So they used to take the help of Samantas to provide the soldiers whenever required. So Samantas, they provide weapons, they provide soldiers and other war equipment to the king. They used to bring gift for the king, and they even had to be present at the king's court. Now, a question would arise in your mind that why a Samanta should do so many things for a king, what he would get in return. So yes, you are right in thinking this. Yes. So what did the Samanta used to get? The Samanta used to get land grants. Now, land grant means getting land as a payment. Now, if a Samanta used to get a land, he was a owner of that land. So he could collect taxes, he could charge rent on that land and could earn his income. So with that income, he used to maintain the soldiers and would provide the soldier to the king. But the other part of this situation, when a Samanta became powerful, they, or if the king became weak or incompetent, the Samanta used to assert their power and to claim their independence. So we have examples of many such Samantas who grew stronger, even more stronger than the ruler, and they became independent from the king. So one such example is Danti Durga, who became the founder of Rajputa dynasty. So I hope Samanta is clear to you all. Okay, now let's proceed. The next way to prove the supremacy or to gain acceptance was the performance of the ritual Hiranyagarbha. Now Hiranyagarbha, this ritual was performed by Danti Durga, about whom I have talked to you in the previous slide also. So since he was a Samanta and he, in order to gain acceptance from the other kings, he performed this elaborate, very expensive ritual named as Hiranyagarbha. Now, what is done in that Hiranyagarbha, or what does Hiranyagarbha means? Let us talk about it in detail. Hiranyagarbha means golden womb. Womb is a place where child takes birth. Gold means made of gold. And the golden pot was made, which signified a womb. Hiranyagarbha. Hiran is a Hiranya. It's not Hiran. Hiran is a deer. Hiranya is another word for gold. So golden womb, a golden pot was made, which was donated to a Brahmana after performance of the ritual. Now, what was done in this ritual? The donor, means the person who is performing that ritual, would utter few mantras in the praise of Lord Vishnu. Then he used to enter into that golden womb, that golden pot, and the priest used to perform the rituals and rites from outside. And then after performance of all the rites, the donor was taken out from the golden womb as if a new child is born, as if that person has taken a new birth or has been reborn. So all the rituals which are performed for a newborn baby were performed with this donor. And then that donor used to utter a few mantras announcing a rebirth from a divine womb. and that is Hiranyagarbha. And finally, that pot was donated, that golden pot was donated to the priest along with some other gifts which were given by the donor. So now a question would arise, ma'am, why would they do this such an elaborate ritual? So such ritual was done to prove themselves or to gain acceptance from people, because any small person or a poor person could not perform such lavish, elaborate, expensive ritual. And even more so, through this, he proved himself that he has taken his rebirth as a Kshatriya. Even if he was not a Kshatriya by birth, but yes, now with this Hiranyagarbha ritual, he has become a Kshatriya. Now, another way to gain acceptance was by adopting titles. We have talked about Ashoka in grade 6. Ashoka was also known as Chakravartin, Samrat Ashok. Chakravartin means Lord of Three Worlds. Means the Dharti, Akash or Patal. All these things clubbed together. So, means the Lord of all these three worlds. Even the title Maharaja Diraj means King of Kings or Great King. So such titles also help them to gain acceptance amongst the public or among the other kings. The last thing, the warfare. So there were few people in the history who were not actually Kshatriya by birth, but they adopted arms and they proved themselves to be a real Kshatriya by establishing kingdom with the help of their own warfare techniques. So one such example is Harichandra, who was a Brahmin who gave up his traditional profession. So we all know what's the work of Brahmin, of reciting mantras and doing yagyas and havans. So he gave up his traditional profession and took up arms, and finally he was successful in establishing kingdom in Rajasthan. So that's all about today's topic. I hope you like my video. Thanks for watching the video. Do share, like and subscribe for more updates on the channel. And yes, most important, please give your valuable suggestions and comments. And if you want any video on any topic, please do write to me. Thank you so much. God bless you. Take care, everyone.